I'm Dr. Howard Fuller. I'm a reader of war studies at the University of Wolverhampton. My research monograph, this one, Turret versus Broadside, okay, was focused around the sinking of this ship, HMS Captain, which at the time was the most powerful warship in the world. It was a sort of pride of the Victorian Navy, and in a sort of maneuver that was going on off the coast of Spain with some other ships and squadron, got caught in a storm, and the ship capsized. It was the biggest catastrophe to hit the Royal Navy throughout the 19th century. The question occurred to me about where the wreck was, and I began to realize that no one had discovered the wreck. So after a while, it sort of just dawned on me that we might be in a position to try to look for the ship ourselves. So I started making inquiries, and basically over the past year, I've been giving myself a crash course in shipwreck hunting. What I was able to do was pull together people and do the necessary archival research. You have to pull in all the clues and historical evidence if they've survived since 1870 when the ship sank, and try to piece together where exactly to look. There were survivors' accounts, there was testimony at the subsequent court-martial, there were bits in newspapers, there were stuff that cropped up in whatever memoirs or diaries later. And in particular, there were, say, the logs from the other ships in the squadron. That I could do. I used to spending time in the archives, so I did a lot of research, and then began to plot it. So trying to piece it all together, pull out the maps, admiralty charts, and zero it in as best we can. In the meantime, I've been doing some papers, generate some interest, some seminars, some public talks. I had an email come in from a Spanish documentary production company based in Galicia, which is that part of Spain, northwest Spain, where the captain went down. And they said that they had also been looking for the captain. They were under a sort of limited local Galician government grant to find the most famous shipwreck in their Costa la Morta, their coast of death, where of course there are many shipwrecks that have taken place over the centuries. My suggestion was that we collaborate our efforts. What they had done was different methodologically than what I'd been doing. They had been interviewing local Galician fishermen who have been dragging their nets in a lot of the suspected area that we were talking about. But they had produced sort of detailed intelligence, which they were willing to share. So last year, we pursued two tracks. One was to go with a marine company and get the best estimate we could to charter a vessel and go out and look in various suspected wreck sites. So while we were pursuing that, the Spanish documentary team said, well, look, there's a couple sites that we want to look at based on what they were doing. A boat was chartered, and they put in their funding. The University of Wolverhampton has co-sponsored this. We put in our funding, and then I flew down there and went on the boat at the end of August, and off we went. And sure enough, we hit about 4 unidentified shipwrecks in about 4 hours. Just 1, 2, 3, 4. The local maps that had been compiled by the fishermen were dead on. They were very accurate, so we weren't like fishing around too much. But the first couple of wrecks, using a multi-beam echo sounder, it gives you fairly detailed measurements in some respects, and one of them would be like things like length, width, depth, things like that. But the first 3 wrecks that we hit were clearly nowhere near the size of the Captain. The Captain was a very large warship. But the 4th wreck was almost exactly to the specs of the Captain, and even the sort of fuzzy image on the multi-beam suggested a silhouette, a rough sort of facsimile even of the superstructure of what the Captain might be. There seemed to be a forecastle, there seemed to be a poop deck, there seemed to be some debris nearby that could be turrets or something like that. and the measurements were very, very close. So we were pretty excited about that, and then we had a big debate about the probabilities of this actually being the captain. So what we're doing now, since then, is we want to go back and deploy more sophisticated equipment and put a camera on the actual fourth wreck, this mystery wreck, that's so tantalizingly close to what the captain could be. It's, if we manage to get the funding and we go out there, we put a camera on it, and it's not the captain, it's something else, in which case we're back to square one. And that's fine, but again, a lot of this is about fundraising. And there are lots of discoveries that are going on. So the captain's time has come, and we're in a good position to identify it. And again, even if the follow-up to what we looked at earlier this summer doesn't pan out to be the captain, it's some other ship, we would carry on the search.